Hello and welcome back to Thrive. I am Giben Lovu and today I'm joined by my colleague Vuyokazi Majola. She is our colleague in the learning and development space at GIBS. Welcome, Vuyo.
Thank you very much, Mkibe. As Mkibe said, I am Vuyo Majola, hailing from the Eastern Cape, from a town called Utenik, Etinaga. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and today we are joined by Benita Sinyazi, who is one of our delegates on the TITA IEDP program. Welcome, Benita. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Mkibe, for having me.
Yeah, and just to share a bit about Benita, she, as I mentioned, is a delegate on our TITA IEDP program, and she's currently a PhD candidate and also the only female technical director in the logistics industry in her company. And she's very passionate about women's empowerment. And I know that you also featured in a book on leadership and agency, especially in the engineering sector. And I'm glad you're here with us today. I think we can start the conversation by talking about how you understand the concept of thriving.
Okay. I think my understanding of the concept of thriving obviously will be influenced from my own viewpoint and my experiences. As somebody who is within the logistics space, I did study engineering. I'm also on this program and I'm also continuously studying. I think for me, thriving speaks of how one is able to successfully move from one point to another. I mean, be it whatever adversities you come across, so you manage to pull through. So for me, that is what thriving is about, because you're faced with multiple challenges along the way, but yet at the end of the day, you're able to successfully reach where you would like to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, that was quite a picture that you basically laid down for me here, Benita. And I felt that didn't come from just anything. Is there anything that you specifically feel that it kind of like motivated you in kind of like deciding what thriving is for you?
So I think maybe the one thing is I'm operating in a highly male dominated space, and I think, Ngibe, as you said, I'm the only female technical director in our group of companies. So on a daily basis, I'm dealing with men. I think taking a step back from studying engineering, it was also considered to be quite a masculine kind of course relative to your sales and marketing and the BComs and stuff. So me intentionally moving into that space, I think I'm just always faced by those kind of dynamics. Now, for me to get to the level that I'm at, I mean, there are people I'd studied with and some changed along the way. They opted for, shall we say, the softer route, but through perseverance and wanting to see where I'm at, I would say it was through the element of thriving and wanting to succeed, but also acknowledging the journey and ensuring that being a female within the space, I don't just become the only one. I also ensure that the younger generation that will probably come and take over from where I'm at to greater extent, such that, you know, from a gender parity and equality point, females can also operate within the space and be judged on merit. So that's where I'm at. And I think the one thing that I personally speak of, especially in this space, in my journey to thriving, is maintaining the element of femininity. Because I think a lot of the time people also make it that if you want to play in the male-dominated space, you have to be one of the boys. And I think that is a wrong perception and impression we are creating. I intentionally wear my nails pink because I want the younger people to note that you can still get to a certain level, yet maintain your femininity. So it's part of the things that you do along the journey of thriving. I mean, I've got other people that they do things differently, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with those ladies that are at the top that want to be one of the guys. But I think we just want to create a platform in which each person can find their own narrative in terms of thriving. That's
and I think from there I pick up on the point of intentionality in both how you present yourself and how you create a space for others to be comfortable with who they are and owning that space. And do you perhaps have an example of how you've managed to achieve that, in talking about creating that space for others to come through?
I'm going to try and maybe just limit it to two, because
Yeah.
if I can think of it.
Yeah.
So from an intentional point, within my workspace, I think a lot of my colleagues, they came through via the workshop. They didn't come through via academia and some
Yes.
workplace practices. So a lot of them come from that highly manly mechanical space.
Yes.
They've never had to deal with a female colleague. So be it from a traditional patriarchal space, they've never had to deal with a female. Some have never had to even report to a female.
Yeah.
So getting them to understand how to coexist and work, I always, I think the choice of words, how you address a person in a meeting where somebody expects that the female will make the tea. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you make your own cup of tea, you know.
Yeah.
And then say to them, this is how you do it, and this is how they should go try and raise their girl children back at home. So
Yes.
you sort of feel, you become an advocate for fixing, not so much fixing because they're not broken, but rather to change and advise them on how to operate, and then also then create an environment for future generations, as I
Yes.
spoke. And I think the second one, in terms of creating that environment intentionally. So I, outside of my mainstream work, I also sit on the board of the Faculty of Engineering and Built Environment, both at UJ and at TUT. And in that space, obviously, a mentor the
Yes.
young up and coming, because of the fact that some people feel we're only studying just to get a job, not thinking they can progress to anything. So that is where I've become intentional to then say, giving back. I always say, be the leader you needed when you were a junior.
Yes. Sure.
So
Yeah.
I always picture, what did I want when I was at that level? And I'm trying to give them that. And some of them, we do still keep in touch. I was also fortunate to have some people that were my seniors. And the one thing I always talk about is my triangulation of references was just engineering guys.
Yeah.
But I don't want the young female engineers to only have male engineers as point of reference
Yeah.
because of the gender dynamics. So
Yes.
those are the things that I intentionally do. I probably will never reap the benefits or see the changes that they will do in the later years, but just knowing that that's what I'm giving back to the best that I can,
Yes.
it's sufficient for me to say I'm doing something.
Yeah.
So would it be correct if I say that it's just a matter of you just kind of paying it forward? Because is it a matter of someone did it for you? Is this why you're doing it for them? Or is it back to your statement around it's so important that you become the leader that you would have wished for? So what's the dominating decision for this?
I think it would be the latter, being the leader that I wished I had, because it's not so much paying it forward.
Yeah.
It's not a conditional act.
Okay.
I don't even see it as an act of kindness. I always say to people, do good and the universe will repay you.
Yeah.
There's a story that I always tell people. So I went and I did my master's in Japan. And I remember I was supposed to come back to South Africa for the first time. I had a luggage that was overloaded. Remember, I hadn't been home for a whole year. I literally sat in a foreign country at the airport and I just cried because I was like, I want to go home. Nobody came to my aid. They fortunately phoned the South Africa office. Somebody paid with their own personal credit card. I got home. Recently, another lady who we share a supervisor, she's gone to do her master's in Spain. Her family is very far away. She phoned me. I was in a meeting and she's like, I'm here at the airport. My bag is overloaded. I literally canceled the meeting and I ran and I helped her because I know the story.
Yeah.
Her mother called and said, why would you do that? I said, because I know what it's like when you're trying to push a dream, but something just stops and somebody comes and helps you. And I'm saying, because somebody had helped me, I'm helping her in future.
Yeah.
She will tell the story as well to say, I almost lost out on a scholarship because some of the bags and somebody came to help me. So sometimes as a person, you shouldn't forget where you come from and those that helped you. And when you help the next person, don't expect to get something in return. So it's not so much the paying it forward, but again, when you do good, the universe will also do good back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. As you spoke about being in a different country, I now thought of the importance of vision. And could you maybe unpack that for us, how important that was for you to persist or rather persevere while you were in that situation?
So it's important to at least have a vision, but counter to that, there's a question that people like asking at interviews, and I'm not quite a fan of, because I've lived through it, like where they say, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah.
In a space of 5 years, I had found myself in a new job, which I then went on a sabbatical, studied overseas, and came back. A lot can happen in 5 years, but allowing yourself to be flexible and move with the times, but at the end of the day, knowing where you want to. And I think also while you're there's certain things, you'll do certain jobs, you'll experience certain things. It shapes you to knowing in future what you don't want.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you won't walk down that path. So that then shapes your journey going forward.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that literally 2 days ago in class, just here, we did a business simulation course. And in that business simulation course, of course, you're competing as groups, but simulating real life, things change. So you have a vision to say, okay, I'm going to go into the volume-driven strategy. Others are going with a cost. But things change, markets change. And that's the thing. That's why I say to talk about the 5-year plan, you can't stick to it, because sometimes you have to, the goalposts move, and as a person, you need to acclimatize. But as long as you've got a vision to say, at the end of the day, I want to lead, I want to be in a certain position, how you climb, it differs as long as you get to your goal. So that's my view. So don't ask people where they see themselves in 5 years.
Which then brings me to the next question, and I'm glad you've touched on your experience, like for instance through the program that you with us with here at GIBS.
Yes.
So and I know, like for instance, there's just so many balls most probably moving in your life, and now we've added on the other ball, which is this program that you're currently on, right? And I know you're living this, and I'm just saying it. But like for instance, from a thriving perspective, and all of these moving balls, and also just all of the stuff that you're currently kind of like experiencing and also learning through GIBS, what has been the moment of like a tool of thriving for you that you feel that maybe you've received from this program that you're currently in?
Look, I will say, and it's a conversation that a lot of us and the ladies have been having this week, that, where we were when we came here, and I think, kudos to GIBS for this program, and together with Tita that funded for it, is that we came as subject matter experts, industry specialists. But then there was something lacking, I think, in terms of understanding ourselves, understanding how to coexist with our colleagues, how to manage our subordinates, and also how to delegate upwards, because there's always a lot of things to do. So I think the course in itself, everybody has unique takeaways. And I mean, I think I was sharing my takeaways of understanding that I'm a very headstrong person. And I mean, sometimes you don't see your blind spots. So we've learned to identify blind spots, but also learned how do we then mitigate against those blind spots for people that have never dealt with a Benita. And they might feel like Benita's a bit too much, and then so you lose that connection. So I've since learned how to read the room better, how to manage those kind of first engagements, but also how to be aware of myself. And of course, lastly, when things move, how do I then align myself with the new positions, as long as it doesn't derail me from my end goal. So those are the things. It's been great. A lot of the softer skills learning, because I think everybody came here already as a subject matter expert. So that's needed at a leadership level.
I think an important thing that Professor Nick Benadal, our founding dean, talks about, he says, a leader needs a map and a mirror. So a map to figure out where you're going, and a mirror for reflection. And that's how you also grow, by reflecting on what you've learned, or what you're learning, and where you're going, and then what needs to change in order for you to get there. And I'm glad we had this conversation with you, and thank you for availing yourself to be with us. And also thank you, Vuyo, for joining me today as my partner. And look forward to more collaborations.
Oh no,
also.
Definitely.
Yeah.
They're on the cards.
It's been lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much also on my side. And I think it's quite inspirational to kind of like, be sitting next to women leaders who are spearheading certain, industries where in the previous past we could never even dream of being part of. So kudos to you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
And thank you again for joining us today. And we look forward to more inspiring conversations about thriving and to also learn and unlearn many things. I mean, there's a lot of room to change, as we've seen. We're constantly learning and we're constantly growing. So we look forward to being with you again. And do keep in touch with us as we continue building this thriving community. Thank you again.